Protest got started earlier today. We have reporters at both scenes for you tonight.
And the protests have been peaceful for the most part in both Orange County and in downtown LA. Let's go now to Mike Rogers at the desk for the latest. Mike.
Yeah, here we are at 3rd Street, the chopper overhead, and you can see that there is far more law enforcement officers than there are protesters down there. I mean, the crowd has significantly deteriorated, especially here at 3rd Street at this intersection. You've got law enforcement now on both sides of them. You've got LAPD there. I mean, even just on the corner of the screen, the right-hand corner there, you've got a small group of people. You've got some other on the left side as well. But they've basically kind of trapped, basically the people that are in between these two police lines are trapped. It's unclear if LAPD is going to make arrests there. I don't believe, let me double check. I don't believe an unlawful assembly has been declared for them to kind of do that. But yeah, I don't see anything about it. So they're just kind of, moving through 12th and Figueroa. There's a demonstration as well. So we'll try to check that out here in a second too. But not a lot of people. I mean, there are certainly more law enforcement officers than there are protesters down there, which is great. Things are much different, as we keep pointing out, than they were last night. So we'll see what the game plan is here for the LAPD, if they just want to push the remaining ones out that are here, and then see if they can demobilize. I mean, last night they said it took them until 2:30 in the morning, technically this morning, to be able to do that demobilization of those officers that were here. So excuse me, you've got the group here. And like I said, they've blocked them on both sides. So I don't know if that means generally, and just generally when we see that, that means they're going to arrest. If they don't give the protesters anywhere to move to, that usually means that they're going to start making arrests. They're obviously pretty far apart from both those skirmish lines. So it'll be, interesting to see if they continue to push those skirmish lines together or what exactly they're going to do to handle that situation. But a much different situation tonight compared to last night, and for a multitude of reasons, as we've discussed, guys.
Mike, one of the questions I've been getting from folks who have reached out is when LAPD goes on tactical alert, you're saying nobody goes home. So does it become a 24-hour shift? How did firefighters kind of handle it, or what happens?
Yeah, different situations based on the needs of the department. I mean, the chief said earlier that some people's vacations are even being canceled.
Wow.
But it basically, they'll keep everybody on, and then you'll have new, they call them watches, that will come on. And if they get enough members between the new watches that are added, then on the back end, maybe if you have day watch or morning watch that was still being held over, they can start to slowly let those people go, especially in a situation like this where there is not a significant amount of protesters left here. But yeah, citywide tactical alert, they can do it in different fashions. They can do bureau-wide. LAPD is broke up into Central Bureau, South Bureau, West Bureau, and Valley Bureau. They can do it just by the bureaus, or they can do it citywide. In this situation, they've done it citywide, and they're holding everybody over. We don't see any patrol cars here in the shot at the moment, but LAPD is pushing this crowd forward as we're watching that now. So we have that group of skirmish line there. We have this group of skirmish line here. So we'll see if they're going to sandwich them and make arrests, or if they're going to let those guys go. It's a very interesting tactical situation that LAPD doesn't usually put themselves in, where you are allowed to have the protesters kind of on two sides of them. You see a smaller group of officers there on the left that is keeping that crowd from, coming up behind those additional officers. And then on the right, you've got that group that is keeping those guys as well. So they may very well, and you got some shoving there, look at that. So somebody pushed one of those officers, the officer pushed back, and that was enough to disperse the crowd and push the crowd away. Yeah. Which is interesting, because last night, I mean, this crowd will get out, is being, I don't want to say more skittish, but they're not willing to hang around as long as the crowd last night. Last night, that wouldn't have done anything for anybody. One of those officers pushing a person, that wouldn't have deterred that crowd at all. This crowd tonight, you saw them scatter when that happened. You've got that line of officers that's moving in here. They're pushing everybody together. That white truck, and I've mentioned this before, the chopper's moving up, but that white truck that was there with the big speakers on it, that is the one that is used to say, go away or go to jail. And so now we've got these officers moving in. I don't know where that car came from, but that's obviously not a great situation for law enforcement to be in with the car there. So we'll see here if they're going to start trying to facilitate arrests, or if they're going to let these people that are trapped in the middle out, or if it's too late for that. I mean, there are certainly situations where LAPD says, nope, you've had your warning, and now everyone goes to jail. And
is that strobe, Mike, from one of the protesters?
It's people taking pictures.
Oh, okay.
This has become a huge, photography opportunity. Last night, it was insane how many people were taking professional photos. Even earlier this afternoon, it was almost like a press conference that a protester was giving, with so many cameras and microphones that were there. So here we go. The crowds are starting to converge on each other. The bottom half of the skirmish line is not letting that group go past them. So they may have been given warnings, and they may be to a point where We gave you a warning. We told you to leave. You didn't. Now you
The
go to jail.
officers there got closer, Mike, the ones on the top of the screen.
Yeah, they're definitely kettling this crowd and making it so they don't have anywhere to go. Now, sometimes the crowd is a situation where the crowd is, yep, this is what I knew was going to come. I knew I was going to go to jail. I'm ready. Other situations, the crowd may try to break through the skirmish line. We'll have to see how they kind of handle it. But based on the totality of the circumstances, I am a little surprised that LAPD is kind of kettling them this way and potentially wanting them to make arrests. They're going to let the car go through because it seems like that person kind of got stuck in a situation they weren't really prepared for. But we'll have to watch and see how this develops and see if they start making arrests.
Mike, could they give a dispersal order without declaring an unlawful assembly?
Certainly, yeah. They could say in certain situations, we're going to lose our helicopter shot there, but they can say in certain situations, you guys are not in this particular area in the right way. You need to leave, or we will arrest you. And they can do that without giving an official unlawful assembly. They can give a dispersal order without an unlawful assembly.
You can tell from our ground shot here live there in downtown LA, the LAPD officers, men and women, showing incredible, just calm right now. As the situation looks like it did intensify for just a minute there, where a protester pushed an officer and the officer sort of pushed back, and that made a big part of the crowd just kind of push all the way back and run back. So that's kind of been what's the biggest, I would say, action, if you will, that we've seen tonight.
That's right.
We haven't, thank goodness, haven't seen a lot of violence that we saw over the weekend. Certainly these protesters and demonstrators just staying peaceful tonight, staying there on the streets of downtown LA. We do not believe a dispersal order has gone out just yet. At least we have not heard of one going out officially, but from the stance of the LAPD officers and from what Lori Perez was showing us, she was seeing some multiple vans, or those big buses that they bring in, the white vans that they bring in, the LAPD brings in after they arrest people in big quantities or big masses. So we'll see what happens here. But for the most part, really, no pushing and shoving like we saw last night, as Mike was talking about, just the violence that was incited last night among some of the protesters. And we have to keep saying some of the protesters, because
protesters
these
and
are
agitators.
not, these are not all the protesters. For the most part, they have stayed peaceful.
Yeah, and last night, the chief, we talked about this earlier, but the chief said that there are these people that go city to city. And I have to tell you, we've covered a lot of protests here, and we have seen some of the people that look more professional or more prepared for protests. Yeah. Last night was a big moment in my journalism career, seeing that, because as soon as I saw a guy with a leaf blower, and I said, what is the leaf blower for? And we learned that the leaf blower is used to blow the tear gas away when it is sprayed at them. And if you are showing up to a protest and you bring a leaf blower with you, you obviously have done this before and are using that tool to try not to be overcome by tear gas. And we also saw, Dean on our digital desk found some video of people using hammers to break up the concrete to be able to throw it at CHP officers. That was such a violent group yesterday. And what a protest that started like today's was peaceful in the day. And as soon as about 3:30 hit, things took a real bad turn. 5 o'clock, the Waymos were on fire. After that, it really went downhill from there. And thankfully, that's not the situation we're seeing tonight.
Well, leaf blowers, Mike, umbrellas. I don't know many protesters that go around with spray paint bottles or cans in their bags. But if you're talking agitators, professional agitators, they have all that ready to go.
And there was a situation too. So the CHP cars. So the protesters got on the freeway. CHP came in to push them out. Their cars were on the freeway, and then from the top of the overpass, that's when they started throwing all those things. We even saw them pick up a street sign and throw a street sign on top of it. But to your point of what they're coming prepared with, we also saw them pour a liquid down from the overpass onto the CHP car that very quickly ignited. And thankfully, CHP had the wherewithal to have fire extinguishers ready. So CHP, while trying to hide under the underpass so that they weren't getting pelted with concrete, was trying to spray the extinguisher far enough to put out their car that was on fire. And thankfully, they were able to. And the CHP car never actually caught fire. But they did have to be towed. I think we ended up seeing like 3 CHP cars that had to get towed out from under the freeway.
And was that a Molotov cocktail, Mike? How did that liquid ignite? I'm just kind of wondering. It's wild.
Yeah, so they used kindling. So they were able to get some straws or not straw, but things on the ground.
Paper,
whatever. They were using cardboard. They were also using some, not hay, but something to that similar effect. They would bunch it together, light it, and then toss it down there. And then once it was down there, then they poured the liquid on top of it. And that's what
Whoa.
you really got the fire going. And again, thankfully, CHP was able to put it out.
And luckily, a child wasn't hit or anybody else for that matter, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And especially of that. Driver, that minivan driver. There was a guy with a dog that had to, get out of the way. There's the minivan driver at one point, which I just got, the detective from Sheriff's Department actually just called me about it, so I got to call him back. But was driving through Union Station, got so close to a bicyclist, the bicyclist got scared and fell off his bike.
Oh, gosh. All right, Mike, thank you so much. Our breaking news coverage continues here with this. Hundreds more military troops are being deployed to Los Angeles tonight. Mike's been telling us that at the direction of the president.
Oh, this as the state is filing a lawsuit to get them out. KCAL's Leslie Marin joins us now with all the details. Leslie.
Yeah, Susie, Juan, both the governor and the Pentagon confirming tonight that an additional 2,000 National Guard troops will be deployed here to Los Angeles, as you said, at the direction of the president. Shortly before that announcement came down, the White House confirmed that 700 Marines from 29 Palms would be landing in Los Angeles in the next 24 hours. So this now makes a total of 4,000 National Guardsmen, including those Marines. You add that on top of the Guardsmen there. The governor claims most troops are sitting unused right now in federal buildings and called the move reckless and pointless. Now, CA Attorney Rob Bonta confirmed the troops are activated for 60 days, and right now state officials don't know when they will stand down. Now, the National Guard and the Marines' mission is solely to help protect federal personnel and federal property. In the meantime, Governor Gavin Newsom is now suing the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard without his consent. The judge is asking, or the state, I should say, is asking a judge to declare it unconstitutional and for the court to halt any future deployments. We heard from State Attorney Rob Bonta and the president today.
An order that abused the federal government's authority and violated the 10th Amendment and federal law. An order that skipped over multiple rational, common sense, strategic steps that should have been deployed to quell unrest and prevent escalation. As a result, I, in partnership with Governor Gavin Newsom, are suing President Trump.
He's an incompetent governor. Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states. And if I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order.
And President Trump went on to say today that had he not sent in the Guard, LA would have been, quote, completely obliterated. Again, the National Guard, we have not really seen, or we have not seen at all, leave federal property. That is their mission, to protect that property. Many of the clashes happening on city streets that we are seeing are with local law enforcement and protesters. To help out local law enforcement, with the governor announcing today that he is adding an additional 800 state and local law enforcement to help out here in Los Angeles. Susie?
All right, Leslie, thank you so much. Family members of people taken into custody during Friday's raids on businesses in the Fashion District want to know what's happened to their loved ones. As some of them spoke out this morning in downtown LA.
The group raised signs with pictures of their loved ones. They say ICE agents took dozens of indigenous immigrant workers into custody, and since then they've struggled to find and make contact with them. Ambiance is the company that employs these workers who make clothing.
I was present during the raids. I saw with my own eyes the pains of the families, crying, screaming, not knowing what to do, just like me. That's why the families demand free of all workers, legal representation, and due process.
Well, family members also say they believe the LAPD coordinated with ICE despite the city's sanctuary status. LAPD leaders have repeatedly denied that.
Night 4 of protests against ICE raids underway tonight.
An update as our live team coverage continues next. Danny?
Hi, Juan. Good evening, everyone. We have been seeing the marine layer clouds, more June gloom tomorrow, and some of us are going to feel warmer. We'll talk about the warming trend in your neighborhood. That's next.
Remain on edge tonight as ICE raids lead to ramped up protests.
KCAL News reporter Danya Backus in downtown now with the long day of demonstrations.
Tension between protesters and law enforcement continued in Los Angeles for a fourth consecutive day after a weekend of at times violent clashes over immigration raids. Family members of those detained during the raids gathered Monday to express their outrage.
I was present during the raids. I saw with my own eyes the pains of the families, crying, screaming, not knowing what to do, just like me.
On Monday, California's Attorney General said he is suing the Trump administration for deploying hundreds of National Guard members over the weekend, a move he called unlawful.
They did so without authorization from Governor Newsom and against the wishes of local law enforcement who are on the ground, actively assessing and responding to the situation in Los Angeles in real time, a situation that didn't warrant the National Guard.
In a social media post, California Governor Gavin Newsom also called reports of 700 Marines being mobilized to Los Angeles completely unwarranted, uncalled for, and unprecedented. President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, has threatened to arrest anyone who obstructs the administration's immigration enforcement effort, including Newsom. In an interview Monday, Governor Newsom encouraged the administration to move forward with his arrest. President Trump had this to say in response.
Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Protesters also gathered to protest ICE raids throughout the nation Monday, including in Philadelphia, Tampa, and Houston. Danya Backus, KCAL News.
And another live look at what's happening tonight. Looks like lots of police activity in this scene after these protests are being broken up tonight in both downtown LA and in Santa Ana.
I believe this is Tom Waite's camera, so that gives us an idea of where this is happening. Let's go to KCAL News assignment editor Mike Rogers at the desk. Mike, we see regular traffic blowing by, and also we saw some officers kind of in formation.
Yeah, which is the best news, and I believe those officers that are moving are probably in the demobilization portion of the night. I mean, we are getting to a point where they simply don't need the amount of force that they have had down there throughout the course of the evening, which is certainly the best news that we have heard because it's just been such a bad, even really since Friday night, we've been dealing with really violent protests here as we look at Tom, and I think this might be City Hall. I see that bridge there.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, so that's great news. You know, they had made a really concerted effort to push all of the protesters away from the Civic Center, from downtown, from, you know, any of the federal buildings, the courthouse, City Hall, all of that. They ended up in the Arts District. They ended up in Little Tokyo for a little while. So certainly a different type of situation here as we're looking at these live pictures. I can also tell you we are waiting for the Marines to arrive. And I don't know who's in the control room, but if we can look at Sat 52 really quick, I just want to show that. We're sitting on the 10 freeway here waiting for these Marines to potentially arrive. We've seen a lot of social media video of them starting to leave the 29 Palms area, which begs the question, if local law enforcement is demobilizing because there's nobody there, flooding 700 Marines into the city is going to be an interesting kind of situation. We also don't know where they're going to go. You know, we had been talking about that earlier because we wanted to get some video of the Marines coming in here and figuring out where they are. So we had been trying to kind of talk amongst ourselves about where they're going to house these Marines because under normal circumstances, in the past when we've seen the National Guard here, they've been at the LA Convention Center, they've been at Rose Bowl, they've been other city facilities, but because the federal government is not cooperating with the city, or at least not communicating with the city about their needs, it's very unlikely the city is going to be like, hey, come on over, this is where we want you. You know, there's a lawsuit to stop what's happening right now. So the feds will have to use their own properties to house them, and we don't know where that is.
And Mike, when you're talking about 700 troops, hard to miss if they're coming on the 10 freeway towards us, right?
And they're in big white school buses from what we've seen on social media.
Okay. Keep us updated, Mike. Thank you so much. All right, we want to get a check of our weather now. We're just getting Rivierti standing by, and boy, we've had some ups and downs, haven't we?
Ups and downs, but a beautiful weekend, Danny.
Yes.
It really uplifted my mood coming into the work week. Right?
I know, right? To see the sunshine and the mild temperatures, you guys. It was
So
lovely.
nice
And we're
out
going to
there.
see more of that. A little bit of a warm up for some of our inland communities. So we are going to get you and your family prepared, and more June gloom. Crazy difference between our beaches and also our inland communities. 35 degrees, and that's all because because of the marine layer. So we were at 68 degrees in Newport Beach. We had the marine layer clouds. Lancaster under bright sunshine from start to finish, 102 degrees there. And we're going to see much of the same going into the coming days. So more June gloom, hot temperatures inland, not so hot at the coast because of that June gloom and those clouds that are stubborn even into the afternoon. And then a cooler end of the week, still above average. And then another warm up this upcoming weekend for Father's Day. Look at this, Saturday, low 80s. And by Sunday in Los Angeles and Orange counties, we're talking mid 80s. So it is going to be toasty out there once we get to Father's Day on Sunday. Now let's talk about tomorrow. Beaches are going to be cooler, all because of this right here. We've got the marine layer clouds. They're rolling back in. 8 to 8:30, pushing into the San Fernando Valley. That green on your map, some sprinkles popping up. And then you see those clouds retreating, pulling away by 11 o'clock. We're under clear skies for most of us, but those clouds will continue to hug the beaches. So it is going to be cloudy for most of the day over there. Everyone else is going to be seeing plenty of sunshine and also warmer temperatures going into tomorrow. Here's a look at our lows first thing in the morning, lower 60s out there. Not even dropping too cool for our high deserts, only down to the low 70s in Lancaster. Inland Empire will be sunny from start to finish. Low 60s by 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, low 70s, mid 80s by noon. And then boom, this is going to be one of those areas that feel warmer than today. Mid 90s once we get to the afternoon. Look at those triple digits out there. So 102 in Lancaster, 102 in Palmdale, mid 80s in Burbank and Pasadena, lower 80s in downtown Los Angeles. And we're going to keep those lower 80s going in Los Angeles and Orange counties through the end of the week. There's that warm up for Father's Day, mid 80s. In the valleys, one day in the 90s, and then we continue to drop the rest of the week just by a degree. So it's still going to be warm for the rest of the week. Warmer this weekend by Father's Day, 93. Valleys, mid 90s tomorrow. Mid 90s hold on Wednesday, still toasty. Lower 90s for Thursday, Friday. And then another warm up going into Father's Day weekend in the mid 90s. 90s for the deserts, 80s for the mountains, and lower 70s at the beaches. Susie and Juan.
Danny, thank you so much. Refusing to close her doors in the middle of a volatile protest.
How one local business owner helped protesters and the police policing them.
Coming up at the hour tonight on KCAL News at 9, we continue our live team coverage of these protests over ICE raids.
And will there be another truce made? The latest developments in trade talks between the U.S. and China. All that and more tonight on KCAL News at 9.